Malik Johnson wasn't the kind of kid anyone expected trouble from. 13 years old, with eyes too big for his round face and sneakers 2 sizes too clean, he moved through the world with the cautious confidence of a boy raised on love, warnings, and whispered prayers. That afternoon, the Georgia sun clung hot to the streets of West Atlanta. Malik had just finished walking his sister, Jasmine, home from daycare. She loved grape-flavored anything, and he remembered she had a rough day. So, with 3 crumpled bills from his allowance and a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth, he set out for Ray's Corner Mart, a place he knew well. The air inside buzzed with flickering lights, old coolers, and the radio station that always seemed a year behind the times. He didn't rush. Malik liked to look. That day, he settled on a pack of grape lollipops and a caramel bar. As always, he greeted Mrs. Ellen, the elderly woman who worked behind the counter. She smiled back, tired but warm. "That all, baby?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am." He handed her the cash, waited for his change, and thanked her before heading toward the door. The second Malik stepped outside, everything changed. A sharp voice cut through the warm spring air. "Hey, you. Hands where I can see them." Malik turned, confused more than afraid at first. The man standing in front of him was tall, pale, mid-40s, with a buzz cut and the kind of face that seemed permanently clenched. He wore a badge and a gun. "Officer Bradley." I said, "Hands up." The cop barked again, one hand already on his weapon. People nearby stopped. Some pulled out phones. A few stared, stunned, while others slowly backed away. Malik raised his hands, his fingers trembling. "I didn't do anything," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Don't lie to me," Bradley snapped. "You think I didn't see you come out of there? Empty your pockets. Now." I bought candy. I paid. Ask inside. The officer stepped forward, grabbed Malik's arm, and twisted it behind his back. The boy cried out, his voice lost beneath the sounds of scuffling shoes and gasps from bystanders. Someone shouted, "Why are you doing this? He's just a kid." Another, "He didn't steal nothing. Let him go." Bradley wasn't listening. He shoved Malik to the pavement and knelt on his back, one hand pressing the boy down while the other reached for his gun. "I'm not going to tell you again," the officer growled. "I'm not resisting. Please, I paid." Phones caught it all. The candy spilled from Malik's pocket, the wrappers glinting in the sunlight like something sacred desecrated. Mrs. Ellen ran out of the store seconds later, waving the receipts still clutched in her hands. "He paid. He paid, damn it," she cried. The cop froze, blinking as if the world had just tilted under him. His grip loosened slightly. Malik sobbed into the concrete. It took only minutes for the video to hit the internet, and hours for it to go viral. #JusticeForMalik trended on Twitter that evening. Celebrities retweeted the video. Activists called for the officer's suspension. The mayor issued a statement of concern. But inside Malik's home, nothing felt victorious. His mother, Denise, sat beside him on the couch, holding his hand like she had when he was 5 and scared of thunderstorms. She watched the video in silence, her face hardening with every frame. Jasmine clutched her grape lollipop, not fully understanding, only knowing that her brother wouldn't eat his. Malik hadn't spoken since getting home. The next morning, as news vans swarmed their front lawn and protesters lined the sidewalks outside the precinct, a new video surfaced. Security footage from Ray's Corner Mart. A clear view of Malik walking in, browsing, placing his candy on the counter, handing over the money, receiving his change, and walking out. Time-stamped. Undeniable. The footage had been kept quiet. Officer Bradley had claimed the store had no working surveillance. But someone inside, an employee who feared for his job, had anonymously uploaded it to the cloud. It was irrefutable. Malik had done nothing wrong. Officer Bradley was placed on administrative leave. But the damage was done. Malik didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt pavement under his face, the weight of injustice on his back. And somewhere deep down, a small but stubborn crack formed in his sense of safety, a crack that no apology could mend. And yet, the story wasn't finished. Not for Malik. Not for Atlanta. Not for a country still choking on ghosts it pretended not to see. Because sometimes the truth doesn't end a story. It begins one. The next morning, the Johnson family's modest home felt more like a media bunker. Reporters camped outside with tripods and hot lights. Neighbors peeked from curtains. A handwritten sign taped to the door read, "No comments, no cameras." But words had already broken loose. Across social media, the footage of Malik being pinned to the sidewalk played on loop. Spliced with the store's security tape, it created a perfect storm of outrage and disbelief. The country wasn't just watching, it was reacting. Some saw a criminal narrative unraveling. Others saw themselves. and many saw their children. Malik didn't go to school that week. Not because he was suspended, he wasn't, but because walking through those doors meant facing whispers, stares, or worse, silence. The kind of silence that fills the hallways of a middle school like fog, thick, wet, hard to breathe through. He stayed in his room, curtains drawn, the grape lollipops untouched on his desk. Jasmine knocked on his door every day to ask if he wanted to watch cartoons. He always said no. Meanwhile, Officer Bradley's name hit headlines. His police file leaked, partially redacted but still revealing enough, multiple complaints over the past decade, most dismissed. 2-4, excessive force. 1-4, verbal misconduct. All against Black or Latino individuals. On Tuesday evening, a CNN panel asked if Bradley was a bad apple or part of a rotten tree. The police union doubled down, calling the viral video misleading and out of context. But the public didn't buy it. The evidence was clear and the voices kept growing. That's when Erica Fields entered the picture. Civil rights attorney. Harvard Law graduate. Known for her sharp questioning, unshakable calm, and poetic closing arguments. She had seen the video on her flight back from a human rights conference in Oakland. The moment she landed, she made a call. 2 days later, Erica stood in the Johnsons' living room. She didn't speak to the cameras outside. She didn't bring a film crew. Just a folder full of case notes and the quiet conviction of someone who had fought this battle before. "I'm not here to make you a spectacle," she told Denise. "I'm here to make sure your son is never treated like that again and that it means something." Denise didn't answer right away. She looked to Malik, who sat on the floor beside the couch, hoodie up, eyes low. "You think people care?" he asked quietly. "They'll forget in a week." Erica crouched down beside him. "That depends," she said, "on whether you speak or stay silent." Malik didn't say yes, but he didn't say no either. And that was enough. The case gained legal traction fast. Erica filed a civil rights lawsuit within 48 hours. Community leaders rallied support. Celebrities began reaching out, offering donations and messages of solidarity. One viral tweet read, "A boy shouldn't need a lawyer to eat candy in peace." At Real Avitatum. Others weren't so kind. An anonymous email sent to Erica's office read, "You're defending a thug. Hope you all burn." Erica had seen worse, but Malik hadn't. He read the email by accident while using her iPad. He didn't say a word, just turned it off and walked out of the room. Denise was furious. At the system. At the world. At herself. I taught him to be respectful. To speak clearly. To show his hands. To say yes, sir. To never run. Everything. And it still happened. Erica nodded slowly. It didn't happen because he did something wrong. It happened because the system doesn't need him to. The court of public opinion hit a boiling point. Thousands gathered outside Atlanta City Hall. Speeches. Music. Silence. And then Malik's name. Over and over. Painted on signs. Printed on shirts. Chanted in unison. Justice for Malik. Justice for us all. And yet, not everyone believed. Fox News aired a segment claiming new footage showed Malik acting suspicious. The footage was grainy, selectively edited. The store confirmed it was doctored. But the damage was done. That night, someone spray-painted "Liar" across the Johnsons' garage door. Erica offered to pay for repairs. Denise insisted on painting over it herself. "Let them see, I won't be scared." The twist came late Friday evening. A former clerk from Ray's quiet, nervous, sent Erica a message. He'd found a second internal file folder. Something tucked into the security archive. Something that showed more. Not just footage of Malik paying, but Officer Bradley circling the block before Malik ever entered the store. Radio logs confirmed there was no call. No report of theft. He wasn't responding to anything. He was watching. Waiting. Profiling. Erica called it what it was, premeditated racial bias. And she wasn't about to let it go unchallenged. Inside his room, Malik finally turned the TV back on. Not to watch himself, but to hear others speak. Protesters. Teachers. Lawyers. Kids who looked like him. For the first time since that afternoon, he cracked open the blinds and looked outside. Not for threats, but for truth. The story was far from over. But the storm had passed its peak. And now finally, people were listening. The courthouse didn't look like the ones on TV. No marble pillars or towering ceilings. Just faded paint, scuffed linoleum, and a broken soda machine in the lobby that had swallowed one too many quarters. But to Malik, it might as well have been the center of the universe. It was his first time testifying. The pews behind him were packed, family, media, protesters, skeptics, and strangers holding "We Believe Malik" signs. His palms were sweating. Erica had coached him for days. But nothing prepares you for a room full of adults dissecting your pain like it's a puzzle they need to solve. The judge, an older white man named Harold Whitaker, had a reputation for being tough but fair. His eyes rarely blinked. The courtroom drama began immediately. The city's legal counsel tried to poke holes in the footage, question the intent of Officer Bradley. They argued Malik looked nervous in the video, that maybe he had given off the wrong impression. Erica didn't let that stand. "Nervous?" she said, standing tall. "You're 13 years old. You're black. You walk out of a store and a grown man with a gun is screaming at you. If you weren't nervous, you wouldn't be human." Gasps. Murmurs. A tight nod from the judge. Malik's testimony was short, honest, and raw. He spoke with a cracking voice and too many pauses, but he didn't cry. "I just wanted candy," he said. "I just wanted to go home. No theatrics. No monologues. Just truth." It landed harder than any speech could have. Across town, the police department was panicking. Not just because of the trial, but because more stories were coming out. Erica had opened the door. Now people were walking through it. An older man from the neighborhood testified that Bradley stopped him once for walking too slow. A Latina mother said her teenage son had been falsely accused of loitering by the same officer. An internal review confirmed Bradley had been reprimanded for inappropriate conduct years earlier, but it was quietly buried. A pattern was emerging, and someone inside the department had had enough. Enter Officer Jamal Carter. Tall, sharp-eyed, mid-30s. A decorated officer, one of the few black men to ever hold his rank in the precinct. He reached out to Erica anonymously. They met late at night in the back room of a local bookstore. "I've got files," he said. "They won't like it, but it's time." He brought forward a damning dossier, emails, memos, and disciplinary recommendations that had been ignored. Not just about Bradley, but about an entire culture of racial profiling enabled from the top down. "You want the truth?" Jamal said. "Here's the whole ugly thing." The court case expanded overnight. What began as a civil suit against one officer was now a question of systemic abuse. The mayor's office released a vague statement about ongoing reviews. The police union lawyered up. Malik became more than a name. He became a symbol, a mirror held to the city's face. But symbols break under pressure. Malik's anxiety worsened. He stopped sleeping. At night, he'd wake screaming, gasping for air, convinced someone was chasing him. Denise tried everything: tea, prayer, long talks. Nothing stuck. It wasn't until Erica brought him a letter from a middle schooler in Chicago who said, "You gave me courage to tell the truth when my teacher called me a thief," that something shifted. For the first time in weeks, Malik smiled. Tensions outside the courthouse peaked. Counter-protesters arrived with signs reading, "Protect our police." One threw a rock through the Johnsons' car window. Erica's office received bomb threats. Officer Carter was reassigned pending review. The trial became national news. CNN, MSNBC, even The Tonight Show mentioned Malik in its monologue. And yet, the boy at the center of it all just wanted to ride his bike again without looking over his shoulder. The twist came on the final day of testimony. Erica presented an internal report written by Deputy Chief Ronald Shaw, a name that hadn't come up before. It was from 2 years prior. It explicitly stated, "Officer Bradley demonstrates continued bias in patrol conduct," recommending behavioral review and suspension. But Bradley was never suspended. In fact, he was promoted the month after that memo was written. And the man who signed the promotion order? Deputy Chief Shaw himself. The courtroom went dead silent. Judge Whitaker slowly leaned back in his chair. "We'll recess until further notice," he said. Outside, cameras flashed. Microphones lunged forward. Erica gave no statement. Malik was rushed through a side exit. But something was different now. Not just a boy telling the truth. A city being forced to listen to it. 3 days after the revelation about Deputy Chief Ronald Shaw, the city of Atlanta wasn't just in the news. It was the news. Mayor Lynn Porter called an emergency press conference, flanked by city council members who all looked like they had aged a decade in a day. The microphones clicked like static thunder. "We are launching an independent review of the Atlanta Police Department," she announced. "Effective immediately." She paused. The air was thick. "Chief Shaw has been placed on administrative leave." The crowd erupted. Some clapped. Others shouted. Protesters cheered from the street. But in Malik's living room, the mood wasn't celebratory. It was quiet. Because Malik didn't care about politics. Or press. Or procedural hearings. He just wanted to be left alone. That night, he sat on the back steps of their house, hoodie up, gaze blank. Erica found him there, hands stuffed into his sleeves. You did something powerful, she said gently. He shook his head. I didn't do anything, he murmured. They did. And they still get to go home. Meanwhile, Officer Jamal Carter faced the consequences of his courage. He was officially reassigned to traffic detail and unspoken punishment. Fellow officers turned cold. Locker graffiti appeared overnight. One morning, he found his tires slashed. But Carter didn't waver. He kept showing up. Every single day. Whistleblowers make people uncomfortable, he told Erica. Because they tell the truth everyone already knows but doesn't want to face. Malik's story inspired others. At first, just a few emails. Then, hundreds. Messages from parents, teachers, students. From Baltimore, Detroit, Compton, even London. They didn't just see Malik. They were Malik. Each message a wound. Each word a mirror. Erica began organizing them into a digital archive, the Malik letters. But darkness wasn't finished. Late one night, an anonymous message landed in Erica's inbox. We know where he lives. Back off. You're not saving anyone. It was traced to a burner account linked to a fringe group known for targeting black activists. FBI was notified. Local police were not. Denise doubled the locks. Jamal quietly placed 2 off-duty black officers near their street, just in case. Then came the day no one saw coming. Malik received a letter. It had no return address. Inside was a short note written in tidy cursive. I was there. I stood in line behind you at the store. I saw what happened. I didn't speak up. I didn't know how. I'm sorry. I'm teaching my son to do better than I did. Malik read it 3 times. Then he did something no one expected. He walked into the living room, sat next to his mom, and said, Can we go outside? At the next protest, Malik walked at the front. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His presence said everything. The lawsuit expanded into a federal inquiry. The Department of Justice opened a formal investigation into the APD's internal practices. They requested Officer Carter's files, Erica's dossiers, and sealed records that hadn't seen daylight in years. The city tried to stop it. They failed. At the same time, the human cost showed. Malik started seeing a therapist. Slowly, he began to draw again. Pictures of his sister, of grape lollipops, of himself not in handcuffs but in a hoodie with a cape. When asked what that meant, he said, just 'cause people see you as the bad guy, don't mean you gotta believe it. Bradley's hearing approached. His lawyer attempted a plea deal, no jail time, community service, and mandatory bias training. The city braced for backlash. But Erica refused. He gets to walk free while Malik lives with this for the rest of his life, she asked the court. That's not justice. That's insult. Judge Whitaker ordered a trial. The twist came from within the blue wall. A second officer, an unlikely figure, approached Erica during a break in court proceedings. Lieutenant Denise O'Hara, a white woman with 22 years of service, quietly handed her a folder. Inside, internal chat logs from the police union's encrypted group threads. They mocked Malik. Called Erica a race hustler. Joked about framing Jamal Carter. Discussed using protests as excuses to test tear gas protocols. Erica didn't flinch. She smiled. Thank you, she said. I should have done it sooner, O'Hara replied. Public sentiment shifted like a landslide. Editorials condemned not just the officer but the structure that raised and protected him. Late-night hosts called for reforms. Churches hosted vigils. Schools held teach-ins. Police recruitment numbers dropped. Policy conversations began on the floor of the Georgia State Assembly. And through it all, Malik remained. Malik, a boy, now becoming a voice, a movement, a memory the country refused to bury. By the time spring rolled back around, Atlanta had become something it hadn't been in years, hopeful. Not because everything was fixed, but because people stopped pretending it was. Malik was invited to speak at a youth summit on justice and reform. He almost said no. But Jasmine, clutching her stuffed elephant and grinning at him like he was a superhero, said, I want to see you on a big stage. So he said yes. The auditorium held 1,200 students. It felt like standing inside a heartbeat. Malik wore the same hoodie he wore the day of the incident. He stepped up to the mic. I thought the worst day of my life was getting thrown to the ground, he began. Turns out the worst part came after. When people looked at me like maybe I deserved it. A pause. But then. I got letters. I got voices. I got people. So now I get to be someone who doesn't shut up. Applause thundered through the building. Teachers cried. Jasmine clapped until her palms hurt. Behind the scenes, Erica built a coalition. A growing list of organizations joined forces: ACLU, NAACP, Justice Forward, and dozens of grassroots groups from across the country. They called the campaign One Truth. Their first initiative, Malik's Voice, a nonprofit that funded therapy, legal aid, and education for kids affected by police misconduct. By the end of the month, it had raised over $2 million. Officer Carter was reinstated with full honors. After multiple news outlets covered his role in exposing corruption, public pressure became impossible to ignore. He was asked if he wanted to transfer departments. He declined. "I'm not going anywhere. The department needs to change from the inside. That's where I'll be." They offered him a new desk. He chose to stay in the field. But the resistance didn't die easily. Threats still came. Erica's office was vandalized one morning, spray paint reading, "You made this a race thing." She had the glass replaced the next day, then etched Malik's quote on the new window. "I get to be someone who doesn't shut up." Bradley's trial began. He arrived with a new lawyer, a trimmed beard, and a stiff jaw. No press conferences. No apologies. Just silence. Erica presented her evidence with surgical precision: body cam footage, internal reports, Officer Carter's testimony, Lieutenant O'Hara's chat logs. Bradley's team tried to shift the blame: per training, emotional distress, a tense moment misread. But the jury had seen the videos. They'd read the letters. They'd felt the shift. Verdict: guilty on all charges. Unlawful use of force. Civil rights violation. Falsifying reports. Tampering with evidence. Sentencing to follow. Malik didn't cheer. He didn't cry. He just exhaled. Then came the twist. The city quietly released a press notice late Friday evening. Over 47 internal files were unsealed. Among them, a confidential agreement made 4 years prior between the APD and a private surveillance firm, the same firm whose footage showed Malik's innocence. The agreement included a clause: footage may be withheld at department discretion if deemed inflammatory to public perception. It meant they could have buried the truth. They almost did. Only a rogue employee saved it. That clause was quickly repealed under pressure, but it left a mark. Now the question wasn't just about one department. It was how many more worked the same way. Malik returned to school. At first, people stared. Then they smiled. Then they sat beside him at lunch. The school gave him space, but also respect. He became the unlikely founder of a new student-led initiative, the Real Civics Club. Not about textbooks. About lived experience. They hosted debates, wrote letters to officials, and conducted peer trainings on rights and justice. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. 1 month later, Malik and Erica sat on a quiet bench outside the courthouse. "Do you regret it?" he asked. "Not 1 second," she replied. "But I regret that it ever had to happen at all." He nodded slowly. "Do you think people change?" "People don't," she said. "But systems can. And sometimes people inside them choose to be better." The chapter ended, but the story didn't. A podcast. A documentary deal. School districts requesting the Malik's Voice curriculum. The world was watching. But more importantly, it was responding. The summer heat came early to Georgia. The kind that made pavement sweat and trees lean for shade. But inside the community center on Auburn Avenue, something cooler stirred, something rare, something earned. Malik stood at the podium, now 14, reading the dedication plaque as camera flashes popped like fireflies. This building is now home to Malik's Voice, a center for justice, education, and youth empowerment. He glanced down at Jasmine beside him, still sucking on a grape lollipop like nothing in the world could touch her. Behind him stood Erica Fields, Officer Carter, his principal, his mother, and dozens of kids who once felt invisible, now fully seen. The trial of Officer Bradley had ended. 5 years. No parole. A mixed reaction. Some said it wasn't enough. Others called it justice. Malik said nothing at all. Because the chapter was over. And this was about what came after. The nonprofit blossomed. Within 3 months, Malik's Voice launched its pilot programs in 3 states. It provided legal literacy workshops for teens, trauma support services for families, anonymous reporting systems for misconduct, paid youth fellowships for policy advocacy. Erica ran the legal arm. Carter oversaw community policing workshops. Malik? He sat on the Youth Advisory Board, the only member under 16. But healing is not a straight line. There were nights Malik still jolted awake, sweat-drenched, heart-pounding. Days when a car backfiring made his knees go soft. Mornings when he looked in the mirror and asked, "Will they always see me as that boy?" His therapist helped. So did drawing. So did Jasmine when she climbed onto his bed one night and said if you were a superhero, your power would be making people care. Officer O'Hara, the whistleblower, retired quietly. But before she did, she left Erica a handwritten note. I used to think silence was safety. You taught me it's surrender. The national impact grew. Other cities opened their own Voices chapters. A documentary aired on Netflix, More Than a Hoodie. Malik appeared on late-night TV, calm, poised, still awkward in a blazer, but unwavering. When asked what he wanted to be, he said, "Happy." The audience fell silent, then erupted in applause. One final twist came quietly. At the edge of a different city, in a different precinct, a white officer reviewed his patrol notes. His rookie partner had flagged a kid for suspicious loitering. The officer stared at the file. Then he clicked delete. "I'm not doing that anymore," he said, almost to himself. Because change doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. A year later, Malik stood before his old middle school. He was a guest speaker now. In a room full of 8th graders, Malik told a story. Not about violence. About truth. Not about pain. But purpose. He ended with the same words etched into the wall of the youth center. Sometimes justice begins with just one truth. Speak it. And when he looked out at the faces of kids who had never known his name before that day, he smiled. Because for the first time since that spring afternoon on the sidewalk, Malik Johnson wasn't just the boy with the candy. He was the boy who rewrote the ending. Justice begins with one voice, but it grows through courage, truth, and community. Malik's story reminds us that the power to change systems lies not in silence, but in standing up even when you're scared, even when you're alone. If this story moved you, please hit the like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more real-life stories that shine a light on injustice, hope, and redemption. Together, we can be the voice that changes everything.